It's the Dadnarok After Show. Now, here's Chris and Sean.
Welcome back to the Dadnarok After Show. This is Sean.
And this is Chris.
And today we are talking about Welcome to Wrexham Season 2, Episodes 1, 2, and 3. We're catching up a bit because Welcome to Wrexham, its second season, premiered last week. We weren't able to do a show last weekend. You know how we do. A lot of family stuff. But we're here this week to catch up and talk about the first 3 episodes.
Yeah, no, this picked up right pretty much where we left off last season. It was fun to do. I mean, it's pretty much exactly what we're expecting. It's huge into the city, fans, rebuilding it's called the Cop, the standing room section, that whole drama. So there was a lot to actually get into in this episode.
Yeah, there was a lot. I like the balance between the 3 because the first episode, the longest of the 3, was a nice reintroduction. They kind of had a recap of last season. And you see a lot of the Rob and Ryan stuff. The King comes to Wrexham and to the pitch. And the second episode was more of an in-close look to that was
Millie and
Millie. Yeah.
And Mullins'
Albie.
son.
Yes,
yeah.
And their struggles and triumphs with autism. I thought it was like that second episode. It reminded me. I was like, oh, that's why I loved this show last season.
Yeah,
was the intimate close-up looks at the inhabitants of Wrexham. And then the third episode was it was all about the actual season itself. You know, they have some success. And they have now officially developed a rival for this season of football.
Well, I think Notts County has been a rival of theirs for a while.
Yeah.
But with Wrexham basically being on such a hot streak,
it
was like normally no one else will be on that hot streak. And Notts County is on that hot streak with them, which makes it kind of sucks for them. It's like, we're breaking records and we're playing better than anybody besides our rival, which is kind of rough. But I guess if you're going to be good, you want someone else to push you. And if these two teams are pushing each other, it's kind of a good thing in the long run.
Yeah, so a nice mix of episodes here and a great reintroduction to the show and to the team and to the dynamic between all the players and people involved. I really enjoyed it. I actually caught up on it this morning, first thing. And it was just, it was fun. It was fun to watch and get back into it.
Yeah, I mean, I enjoyed the first episode. Like you were saying, I liked how they showed kind of the ins and outs of players coming out. All these players they brought in, everyone, because they're spending a lot of money. Even they came out and said, this isn't sustainable. We have to go ahead and get promoted to bring more money into the team so we can continue this. Because if they keep spending at the rate that they're spending, the team's going to fall apart. And they're going to be right back where they were 3 years ago.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I liked how they were showing that, the ins and outs. Also, the etiquette class that Robin Ryan took, waiting for the King to come in and how to shake hands, the 2 pumps and let go, or whatever it was, or how they were sitting down all like proper.
That was good stuff, dude. It was funny, and that's a big. I don't need to say that's a big deal. Of course, that's a big deal for the King of England to want to stop by the club. And, I guess he was probably there on business. I guess there's a short snippet where he was inducting Wrexham into being an official city. I don't know if they went from like a town status to a city status officially, like documented, but I think that's what I took is that was the main reason he was there. But the main reason they probably have had so much growth in the last year or two is probably because the success of the football club, I'd imagine.
Oh yeah,
because it spreads into the town, into the businesses, all the tourism. So,
and that's one thing I'd like to hear from like people that are there or anyone that's in that vicinity.
Yeah,
because you see people, those guys from like Australia coming in. There's people all over the place that are not from the area. They're clearly not from there. So I'm traveling from X place here to see the team. Is that becoming too much? You know what I mean?
Right.
Is there a level of fans within Wrexham that they're not showing that it's really bugging? Like they're taking over our team type thing.
I wondered that myself as I was watching it. I was like, are we really seeing, because they just kind of glossed over how the people of Wrexham and the people that we talked to and learned about last season really feel about the success and the spotlight that they're in now.
Yeah.
Being happy about the team is one thing, but then having a spotlight shown on your home and all that kind of stuff, that could be another thing entirely. So I'm hoping we're not getting like the Disney-fied edit of how people in the town actually feel about all this new attention.
Oh, I'm pretty sure on some level we are. I think on some level we are. They're finding the people with the team that are making a huge difference. Like, for instance, I'll bring Millie up. She went through her struggles. She found the team, and then they have the quiet section for her. And you see her with the headphones on, and she's able to. I like that one part of the show where they're showing the game. She's sitting there, and all of a sudden it's just silence. We hear nothing. They took the sound out, and they let us experience the game in the crowd the way that she experiences it.
Right.
And I thought that was really, really cool. And how like the team embraced her, and they showed that one I can't remember her name, one lady that was in a wheelchair that became like a staff member. That
was
is
it Terry or I know who you're talking about. Yeah.
That is basically adopted her. You know what I mean?
Right.
She comes in, the team loves her. She has a seat that she goes to. She has a routine, which is very important for people that have autism.
Yeah.
So I love that aspect of it, but I know that there is always an underbelly to all fandom.
Yeah.
Of I don't like what's going on. I don't like it. Even though they are making it becomes almost like a self-fulfilling prophecy that when you start saying, I don't want this, I don't want this, I don't want this, then you want it back to where you were.
Yeah.
But in the back, but you're happy that you're winning. I don't know. It's weird on how things happen that way, but
well, it's tough. Even the owner of the Connected Pub, what's the name of the pub? I'm just get back into this again, so I'm forgetting names. And the race course, yeah. And I forget the gentleman's name too. It's been a while, guys. It's been a whole year, and we've done shows since then. And but yeah, he said as much, where he was like, "This is both kind of like exciting and sad to see the cop being torn down, and those old like posts being sold off and auctioned." And I can imagine, like, you're touching, especially something where it's so tactile. Like, I can't imagine the feeling, honestly, of going to a place and being able to lay my hands on it and it being the same exact thing that I touched when I was 7, 8 years old, and just that tactile memory, where it's unchanging, because stuff changes just so much and you get so used to it, where you almost get used to things only existing in photos or your memories.
Well, I mean, here in the States, we change out and tear down stadiums every almost 20 years.
Yeah.
There's only a handful of stadiums that we can say have been the same. You got Dodger Stadium, you have Wrigley. Even Wrigley has been kind of retrofitted. Soldier Field. I mean, I think that's changing here within the next year or two. I mean, there are only 3 that really come to mind. I'm pretty sure there's another one I missed out there.
Well, even the parts and pieces of a stadium. I mean, even if they don't rebuild a stadium whole cloth, they still every year they do some improvements or something where they replace some seats or some portion or part or piece of the stadium itself. So it's not like, you are in a stadium and then you're back 5 years later, 10 years later, and it's like the exact same thing that you stepped into. Stuff's always changing here, and I can imagine how that would be such a difficult thing to go through if you have such long-term memories of a place from childhood onward, and to see it changed in front of your eyes.
Yeah,
go ahead.
The only thing that I can think that would have any comparison to, say, me personally, is with the Crew. You have historic Crew Stadium, which was the very first soccer-specific stadium in the U.S. And I've gone back a couple times this season to watch their minor league team play, Crew 2.
Yeah.
And it's the exact same thing. It's like you walk right back into that. And all those feels, because that was my first soccer game when I went there. So all those feels that come back when I pulled in for the first time this season, I understand to an extent of what they're saying. Like, there's so many memories there.
Yeah.
But I've only there for like 2 games prior to us moving to lower.com.
Right.
So I mean, I understand what they're saying. Nothing has changed there. But I mean, there's a section that if I went 2 games with my dad and standing, in that section, and my first games were there, and I've been a diehard ever since. I can only imagine the amount of memories that are when people are buying basically the bars that you lean on to separate the sections. I mean, that right there says a lot.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, it's so important to the town and to the people there. And like anytime that you wish for something to grow, growth also means change. You know what I mean? And that goes with like you and I were dads raising our kids. Like I don't know how many times I see my 9-year-old daughter and I just, I look fondly back on the times where I was able to hold her in my arms
Yeah.
and but it's just like eventually things got to change if they need to grow. And this is what's going on here is like, this is what the town needs, the people needs, these what they've been asking for forever, just like success and money to be put into the place. And this is what that looks like. And I can understand both sides, how it would be a sad thing, but also, hey, like get excited because this is a new era for your team.
Well, I mean, discussing the cop. I mean, I was doing some research this morning. It's not even gonna be ready until next year. I think that's when they said it was gonna be ready, 2024, 2025.
Yeah.
And really, the biggest thing about that is UEFA, basically the government system over there for soccer, rates stadiums, and they need to be a certain level stadium to continue to progress within the table.
Right.
So they need to be on what is it? Yeah, I'm not sure exactly what the number is, but they need to be a certain level stadium to be able to go through the Premier League and everything. See, a rate stadium with 4 letters value being needed for clubs to actually host games in the Champions League, UEFA, Champions League, National League, for instance. And that's one of the things that Rob and Rob and Ryan went ahead and pitched to the city. Is like, you know what, we want to go ahead and we want to race to the table.
Yeah.
But doing so, they need to retrofit their historic stadium to fit standards of those higher leagues have for capacity.
Right.
And I don't know if everybody truly thought that through. You know what I mean? They want the progression. They want their team to be looked at as one of the top teams. But you also have a stadium that's, 100 plus years old.
Right.
So those two kind of have to got to fit together in somehow without losing the history.
Yeah, that is such a difficult needle to thread. It's like, how do we keep the sanctity of this historic place, but still change it enough and basically build on top of it to accommodate the growth and new people to be brought in, because you don't want to stop and put a plateau on the tourism, because it seems like, hotels, restaurants, just the money being spent in the city, that's on a trajectory upward, and you don't want to curtail that.
The city sold out of merchandise, like jerseys and everything. They could not get any more from the supplier.
Right.
Imagine that amount of money is being pumped into the team. And I think that went ahead and gave Rob and Ryan the ability to go ahead and tear down the cop. Because in that first episode, we find out that politics came into play.
Yeah.
And why they didn't get that build back fund, that 20 million.
20 million. Yeah.
That they were expecting to get. And they came back and said no. And that has to have something to do with Rob and Ryan being a part of it. Because it was almost like it was a shoo-in. You fill it out, things, you just go through the process. This is something that, as long as you follow everything properly, you're going to get.
Right.
And I think because Rob and Ryan's name was attached to it, and it's a team that, it's a sport that you don't want to see your rivals rise too quickly.
Yeah.
And if that's happening, other teams become envious. Other cities become envious. Other politicians have issues with it. And they're going to find a way to block it in some manner. And I think that's exactly what happened. They didn't go that far as saying that. But you look at, once again, the underbelly. It's, the politics.
Well, yeah, and that's probably the added thing of like, hey, they already have these 2 Hollywood types pumping in money from, America into this thing. Like, why do they need 20 million from our government when that can be placed elsewhere? I'm sure there was a lot of blowback and pushback against that. So, it seemed like the whole time they were talking about it, they almost expected that it wouldn't go through. because there's that scene with Rob. It was just like, hey, the decision was going to be next week, 3 weeks ago, and 2 months ago. Like
They
he
kept on
knew.
pushing it off every 2 weeks. Yeah.
He had a feeling, yeah. But I'm glad that they're still able to pour money into this thing themselves. I'm wondering if they're going to reach a point. That's another part of the show too that's so interesting, is watching. Look, Ryan has a ton of money, but he doesn't
will Blake
have,
say no? When will Blake stop blank checks?
Yeah, but they don't have unlimited money.
No,
you know what I mean? Like, so to watch them, kind of have that balancing act into creating
you can see
something.
the stress in their face at times.
Yeah,
you can feel it at times when they're doing. It's like things are going well, but like he said, this isn't sustainable.
Yeah,
so like they have to go ahead and find other avenues rather than them just pumping money into it. They have to get promoted. It's not an option.
Yeah,
because they need to get out of that league.
It's like when a business finally turns a profit, eventually it has to, or else investors bail and it shuts down. So, that was really interesting, that first episode there around that. And I really loved the stuff around Mullins too. Super Mullins and his son. I guess, I don't know if we knew that might have been a segment last season, just him, having a baby. And I don't know if
it was him wanting to come home. That was one of the reasons that it was so easy for Rob Ryan to entice him to come to Wrexham.
Right.
Because of the environment, because it would be good for his son. Now, I don't think they went into the health issues that his son has.
Yeah.
At that point, and that was kind of when they leaned into it this season and kind of gave us a good 15 minutes out of a 30-minute episode, because they bounced back and forth between Paul and his son and Millie and her mom. And kind of like how open the team is. I love how one of the things I love about Wrexham, and I hope it doesn't change with them rising to the table, it's how accessible the players, the coaches, they all are to the fans.
Right.
I mean, Millie has her spot on that rail when the players and the coach walks in and she sees them and talks to them I feel like it's almost every morning, because where they show her house is, it's only like a block from where the actual race course is.
Yeah, that's awesome.
So she's so close. She's able to see him every morning. You can tell there's a personal relationship with her and the players are so open to her. So it's and her and Mullins. You can tell her and Mullins have a close relationship.
Well, how could Mullins not appreciate what she's doing? Because it's like he can learn from her experience. And I'm sure, I don't know if he has, but it would be a great opportunity for him to talk to Millie's mother too, and how she's had to deal with, and autism is a spectrum, right? So it's like every kid is going to be a little bit different, and their needs are going to be a little bit different. But still, I mean, what a great resource to have, to be able to lean on your fans like that, for just actual like stuff outside of the game, actual life stuff.
And you can mention how he feels guilty at times.
Yeah,
it's like I didn't quite understand that, because I'm never going to understand that because I'm not in that position.
Right.
But he was able to come home. You can tell he's able to spend a lot more time with them, and dedicate that time with them. And I feel like the team gives them that time. You know what I mean? Unless they're on the road, and the city is so small, so there's not an hour commute,
right,
to the stadium each morning, which everything that benefits him and his family.
Yeah, what I was happy about is that when he started talking about feeling guilty about not being home, it almost felt like a lead in to say that he was like going to take some time away, or he was going to struggle with finding the balance between being there for his son and being there for the team. But they didn't really go that route. And in all actuality, you see that he is able to kind of toe that line and do both things, because he's having success with his son having progress, like winning and achieving things.
Oh, I loved when him and Ryan were watching a video and his son was counting to 10, and he just kept doing it. And you've seen the joy in his face, but it also seemed very genuine from Ryan as well.
Ryan, he cared. He wanted to take that time. He was just talking to a friend about something that Ryan clearly, cares about, is the well-being of, Mullins' family and how he's doing, which in turn, if you're a cold-hearted bastard and you don't care about the actual lives of the guys that are bringing you wins and, on your team, Like, come on, like you have to invest. That's a part of
Yeah.
investing in the team. You invest time, you invest
Yeah.
talk, you invest
Or
relationships.
relationships. Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, that was a great thing. Oh, and I thought it was hilarious how Paul, he was entering the building and he gets in that conversation with Millie, and she gives him that lovely picture that she drew of him and Albie. And he, before he goes in, he's like, "We gonna win today?" He's like, "Oh yeah, it's gonna be 5-0." And that game ends up
And
being
that's what it
5-0.
was. Yeah. That was that
She was
was the
right on the money.
scoreline. That
Yeah,
was
and
awesome.
that was the part I was worried about. Like, well, I wonder if Paul is going to have a hard time performing or anything, but he got a hat trick that game. So it's like Paul's still on fire.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's
He's
still
still
doing
playing
it.
at that high level. I mean,
Yeah.
it's nice to see that. It's like when Millie found out about Paul's son, she
Yeah.
put that care package together of all the things that make her
Yeah.
feel good, like the
Right.
stress balls, the poppets. And she made a big picture, of individual things, and
Yeah.
just watching her go through her steps and getting the package together, and how excited she was the next
Sure.
morning when her and her mom were walking over to where the team entrance was, and when
Yeah.
she seen Paul, and how genuinely surprised and happy Paul was
Yeah.
when she gave him that for what's his name?
Albie.
Albie.
Yeah, Albie. Yeah. Well, I mean, what a wonderful, thoughtful gift. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, because he knows that Albie is probably going to benefit from some of the stuff because Millie has benefited from it. So
Yeah.
it's like, it's not just like a random toy or something. It's very thoughtful and specific to Albie and his needs. And yeah, how could Paul not be just taken aback by that? It was really
And
sweet.
like I said, I hope that's something that that team, that city doesn't lose
Yeah.
through, however much success the team actually winds up having with promotion, getting to a higher level. So, at a certain point, unfortunately, they're going to have to tighten down some of that.
Yeah.
Because
just
people
like
are going to be coming
security,
through.
safety-wise.
Players, you're going to get higher, profile players that are coming in. You don't know how much they're going to want all that interaction with. Once you start going up, you bring other players in. That small town feel is no longer going to be a small town feel anymore. Because they even talked about, was it 5 years ago, the city was basically falling apart.
Yeah.
All the jobs, all the manufacturing, everything was gone. And they had it basically grayed out. And then they bring it forward to today, and it's all bright in color, and it's, beaming with the success and just joy of the city.
And when you have growth that's too fast, when people or places aren't ready for the growth that's put upon it, that could be almost as bad as when things are in dire straits. Because it's just like, how do you sustain? Like, not only the club, but how does the city itself sustain this incoming business, this new attention? And that's going to be. It was fun to watch the dynamic and get to learn about this town in season 1. But it's going to be almost maybe even more interesting to watch how they handle all this newfound success and newfound attention going forward. And that's what I was really enthralled by, these few episodes as openers for the season 2. Do we know how many episodes this season's going to be?
Quite frankly, I didn't even look, and I don't know. I'm not even going to try to look, because last season they told us it was 10, then it was 15, then it was 20. I'm just going to go with the flow.
Yeah, it just kept on going, and we'll be here for the ride. But the third episode, as far as what was the rival team's name? Knox County. Yeah, they, I guess, have been historically up there as rivals.
Those two have always kind of
thing.
been snipping AHL's heels.
Yeah,
and they went on basically a hot streak the same time Wrexham went on the hot streak.
Yeah,
and it was kind of crazy on the level, and you could tell when they were in there and they're playing, and they went on the road. And historically, when a team goes on a road, they play worse on the road, and I don't know why that is. I'm still struggling to figure that out.
Yeah,
but when they're both playing at that level, and it wasn't a blowout, it was a 1-0 game,
right?
And you can see like how important that game was to the Wrexham players.
Yeah,
because you don't see Paul arguing with anybody in any other episode,
right?
And when they were missing passes and open shots and putting it into the stands, he was like, "What is happening here?" So
you can see, real heat in the locker room, which is not something that we've seen before. If it's been there, we haven't seen it. But yeah, it was nice to get that peek behind the curtain as far as what it really looks like, during halftime in that locker room. And to see the coach come in and, kind of the manager kind of put it all aside and be like, we need to focus and get back out
It was
there.
like, yeah, all eyes on me, eyes on me. Don't stop
Yeah.
yelling at each other. This is what we got to do. When we know we can do it, we're getting our opportunities. We're just not finishing our opportunities.
Yeah.
And I mean, that's one thing I like about the show. They're not showing just the roses. They're showing the struggles. They're showing the team when
Right.
going up and losing games. And there hasn't been a whole lot of it. And I mean, spoiler alert, guys, I know how this ends. I'm trying my best not to, because after last season, I couldn't help myself. I'm like refreshing things. I'm following things. I want to get the app where I can watch the games, but I've got so many apps I spend so much money on. I just can't go ahead and get the extra one. So when they're on ESPN, I catch them. But
well, it's one of those things too, where ultimately, like, spoiler alert, they have some success or big success towards the end of this season, but the struggle, see them go through the struggle. It doesn't seem like it's going to be just a walk in the park for them. Like they're going to earn what they get at the end of the season. And like I said, there's a whole added aspect to the show of like, how does the town, it's going to be interesting even more so, after getting promoted or whatever happens, to see how they deal with that, going forward, if they bring it back for season 3, which I imagine they probably will. But just really great stuff. Oh, there was that other thing where they started talking about the rival teams and some of the other teams in the league, just like hating on Wrexham, just making fun of, Ryan and Rob and the memes, and every time
that's when you know you're doing something right.
Right.
When everyone is looking at you and everyone hates you, that's when you know you're on the rise. But then on the flip side of it, they were showing a few fans. You're like, we appreciate what they're doing. We want to be doing what they're doing.
Right.
They showed both aspects of it. And I love when they went to Knox County. I love all the fans that went with them. Like there's a level of support that travels with this team.
Yeah.
And basically almost taking over this other stadium.
Yeah.
It's like, I feel like it's almost like a split in the fans, because there's an away side and a home side. I think typically the home side has a lot more than the away side does. And they start filling it in, make sure it's not like going to be powder cake going to explode.
Yeah.
But I love seeing that. That's always fun. So you can see like the Wrexham players actually appreciate all the support they're getting on the road. Because I think they've always had support on the road, because they've always showed them like filling up those coach buses and driving to locations.
Yeah.
But now you have so many that it feels closer
it almost
to
looks
a home
like a half
game.
and half. Yeah, which is very impressive, especially in Europe, where you and I were used to America, where everything's, we have a bigger land mass, right? So everything's kind of spread out. For you and I to drive 4 hours is one thing. It's still a trek, but it's not like unheard of. But Europeans, for them to drive 4 hours, like you could be in a totally different country. Like, like it's kind of crazy. So that is impressive for them to travel that distance, especially hometown teams are used to just maybe driving 20 minutes at most to get to the race course.
You pretty much walk to your stadium without any problem.
Right. Yeah. So I mean that's clearly impressive. I don't know here. I know it's kind of a short show. We're used to folks chiming in last season. We welcome you to come back. I know we're a week late, $1 short, but we'll be covering Welcome to Wrexham going forward. We loved the interaction that we had last season with y'all, and we're an interactive show. So if you're watching us, you want to ask questions or leave comments, we're going to bring it up on the screen here. We're going to talk back and forth. We're doing it currently with, mostly one person, but a couple people over on our Ahsoka show. We're covering Star Wars Ahsoka every Wednesday night or every week as episodes drop there on Disney Plus. And going forward, we'll be doing the same thing with Welcome to Wrexham Season 2. So we definitely invite you to join us here on Sundays to talk Wrexham.
There we go. Until we see you guys next time, I don't know. Have a good one. I don't have one lined up.
We'll see you.